That snare sample hurt my feelings.
Why is it metalheads are such gigantic snowflakes? Hey everybody, good morning. Just trying to get into some kind of routine here with SMG Viewers Comments. To be honest with you, the last episode you guys saw of Viewers Comments was me on the ship at 70,000 tons of metal. I literally shot that right at the beginning of February, so it's been well over a month since I've done an episode of Viewers Comments, or at least produced an episode. And wow, that's really something. I mean, like, I haven't done that in I haven't taken that kind of a break from Viewers Comments in well over 10 years. They've slowed down quite a bit. I don't know what's going on right now in terms of doing them weekly or bi-weekly. Honestly, it seems if I do them a little bit less, you guys watch them more, so I'm going to slow it down a little bit. But I will say this, I've got something really special planned for episode 500. That's going to be really cool. This is episode 488, if you guys can believe that. Started doing these way back in the summer of 2014, just as a way to let you guys know that, yes, I do pay attention to what you guys say in the comments, and that means very much to me. Because ultimately, this show is about me helping you make a better informed choice when it comes to spending your money. Of course, don't take what I say as the only way. Your opinion may vary, and that's the cool thing. We're all allowed to have different opinions. All I can do is try and put what I've experienced into terms you can relate to. Anyway, let's get to your comments, questions right now.
So if guitar tones have to be dialed in the context of a mix, the drummer and the bassist are basically deciding what sonic space is left for guitars with their tone, right? Why don't bands do tone dialing sessions?
That is the best question I think I've ever got on this show in the entire history of this show. The only thing I can think of is maybe two things. There's actually a couple answers to this, maybe. First and foremost, ego. I've definitely seen this happen in a number of situations where a band will be rehearsing and the one guitar player is telling the other, let's try dialing your amp in a little. No, it sounds fine just by itself. Not mentioning any names. You know exactly who you are, though. It's just infuriating when one guitar player refuses to listen to any kind of reason whatsoever because he knows best. That definitely happens far more often than not. The other thing is, you got to remember, a lot of musicians aren't that fucking bright, so they won't even think about doing a tone dialing in session. They just think they're magically going to turn their amps to whatever the hell they want. They'll play a gig, and the local sound guy, who they're not paying, by the way, is just magically going to make everything sound great. And more often than not, I've had a lot of bands come in here, oh yeah, we had a great gig on the weekend, but the sound was terrible. I'm like, well, did you pay your sound guy? Well, no. Bottom line on this subject, yes, maybe take a day and work with the guitar player and the bass player and the drummer and try and get your amp dialed in just a little bit better so you guys can sound better as a cohesive whole. What do you got to lose?
There is a certain irony in using Metallica as the example. The band that insisted that their sound for And Justice for All was zero bass guitar in the mix and overruled the sound engineer.
Yeah, we all know how that one turned out. That was probably the best record with the worst mix of all time.
No engineer is out there to sabotage your tone. I guess this is Glenn's polite way of saying that you should kick the hard of hearing drummer out of the studio during mixing.
Yeah, that kind of echoes the last one as well. Here's the thing, I've certainly seen situations where high-level musicians have made some very questionable choices when it comes to things like that. Yeah, And Justice for All is a great example of, just not putting any bass guitar into the mix and the whole record suffering because of it. Another great example would, and we all know where the blame is there. That's on Lars. And it's been well documented. Oh, take the bass down where you think you can barely hear it and then turn it down another 3 dBs. I think that was the quote. You're not supposed to do things like that, and that's why you wind up with a weak sounding record. Another great example of that would be Ed Van Halen's PV Sheffield cab when the 5150 first came out. That was under his specs, and this is what he wanted, and those speakers sounded like fucking garbage. Both Ed Van Halen and Lars Ulrich had severe hearing loss issues. So I think that reflects a little bit on the decisions that they made. So the only thing I can stress over any of this is leaving your hearing protection out when you're at band practice or at a gig does not make you cool. It's only going to hurt you down the road. You might think hearing protection's for wimps, because I've definitely heard that from some stupid fucking musicians before. No, it's not. It's for very smart people, and be smart, protect your fucking hearing, because that's all you get, and it will fuck you up down the road if you don't protect it. Can't stress it enough, guys.
If guitarists insisting their sound isn't already frustrating enough, in my experience, they also always feel the need to foist it on everyone, especially when you're trying to have an important conversation. What's that? You're trying to sequence the set list for an upcoming show? Cool. I'll just play my guitar at full band practice volume so you can't hear your bandmates standing 5 feet away.
I'm gonna just tell a little story in regard to this. I thought this was great. This is from a friend of mine who's a little bit further up the chain, and he was at a very high-level band's rehearsal, and he said the one thing he noticed was that when the song stopped, so did the guitar playing. When the song was done, everybody turned down their volume, discussed, okay, great, what are we gonna do next? How should we do this? You know, blah, 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 blah. Bam, on to the next song. That's the difference between a professional musician and an amateur, is if you can actually shut the fuck up between songs and figure out what the fuck you're going to do next. Band practice is for exactly that. Practicing as a band, not as an individual. If you need to noodle between songs, that's perfectly okay. Turn your fucking volume knob down, because there are other people in the band beside you. And no, not everybody needs to hear how awesome you are all the fucking time. It's just fucking annoying. In my band, the drummer just used to throw sticks at the guitar player to get his attention. Boy, he didn't like that very much, and he got the hint eventually, though. You scratched my guitar. Shut the fuck up! You deserved it!
Watch out for this con artist named Glenn. He is a paid shill. Example, Harley Benton. He ignores extreme taxes and extreme import fees. Once they have their way with you, a cheap item becomes an expensive ripoff. We're talking about $550 plus for a 2x12 cab after they get you on the back end. I've also crowdfunded items like this that is supposed to go between a mic and a hi-hats, only to be ghosted by the company after watching Glenn's video. Watch his video. He makes it seem like the company is legit and you can just buy an item. Years later, and nothing from them. Every time, twice, I followed this idiot's purchase recommendations, I have been burned bad. Glenn is the worst kind of scum, the kind that pretends to be on the side of the working class while shilling overpaid crap. Listening to Glenn has cost me a few $100s. You have been warned.
Well, Jonathan, thanks for writing it. I really do appreciate that. I'm sorry you think I'm a con artist. And I'm also really sorry that you didn't do your basic fucking homework when you ordered that Harley Benton cab. And I can only assume this was to Canada because you're bitching about the taxes and import fees and all the rest of this shit. Dude, what the fuck do you think happens when you order things into Canada? They're gonna add GST onto it, you stupid fuck. And guess what? That's not my fault. No, don't fucking blame me for that. Blame this dickhead right here. Yeah, his laws determine the extra charges, not me. It is not my responsibility to calculate the taxes for you. Okay, here's another newsflash. If you go buy anything else in Canada, guess what goes on it? Sales taxes, you stupid fuck! If you're gonna go as far as to call me a paid shill, check out the video I did for Guitar Fetish there a couple weeks ago, because Harley Benton was not happy with me at all about that fucking video, and here we are though. And the other thing you're talking about, the item that's supposed to go between your mic and hi-hats, yes, that is called the hi-hat husher, or the H husher. They're made in Quebec. And I do believe they are rolling out production very, very soon. Obviously, it took them a little while to get things ramped up, but it looks like it actually is happening. So I guess you're wrong on that one too. But seriously, that's the risk you assume when you do crowdfunding. There is a chance it might not come out. But in this case, it is coming out. All you gotta do is be a little bit patient. Obviously, the company ran into some trouble getting production up to speed, and that's no surprise. You know, working in the auto industry for 27 years, you can see just how complicated it is to get anything down an assembly line. So good on them that it is happening. All you had to do was be patient. Is there anything else you want to complain about regarding me that I'm not actually responsible for?
Just curious, if the tone of a guitar sounds good in a room, wouldn't recording it in the room instead of pointing the mic close to the cab and limiting what it captures preserve the sound of what they want and take away the needless EQing? Also, isn't a good sound engineer capable of balancing out the frequencies of a guitar's tone is just too bass heavy, for example, to fit it into the mix instead of brute forcing it with everything flat scoop out this and that to ensure each instrument in their so-called standard spaces? I don't really know anything about mixing, just a thought from what I've gathered in your videos and what you preach. I've come across some critique that you only produce one sound, and that's it. Don't really know if that's true, but this method of religiously thinking guitar taking only the mid-range, bass the low, hyzer for this and that, would logically lead to such an issue.
Mr. Rattlehead, I think it kind of answered your own question there when you said, I really don't know anything about mixing. That's painfully obvious. Unfortunately, we can't make instruments do what they're not designed to do because of, basic fucking physics. We are bound by that stuff. We're not going to put the guitar into the bass range, otherwise you wind up with Injustice for All. And then there's nowhere for the bass to go. And usually things sound a lot better when you make the instruments work the way how they're designed. I don't know. Fucking strange, huh? But I think the answer you're looking for actually comes from this next statement here.
Almost every tone we have ever loved has been recorded by engineers, not little Timmy in his bedroom studio. Show respect to the engineers.
Thank you very much, dog brother. You hit the nail right on the head. And when it comes to favorite guitar sounds I've heard, go check out Carcass Heartwork. That was really cool. Yes, that was close mic to not the in the room sound, that's for sure. Took them a little while to figure that one out. They wound up building this mutant cab with like two Marshall cabs facing back to back with the backs removed. And they were like taped together and shit. Crazy fucking idea. Worked like a champ though, really got them something unique and totally fucking awesome. But that's the thing, they didn't sit there in the middle of the room and go, well, this is my tone, it's gotta go on the record. They're like, hey, let's do something insane. Those are the fun sessions. Those are usually the sessions where shit goes really fucking cool. So, I don't know, try and be like Carcass in the studio.
Okay, update. Now I've got this MP1 plugin going into the effects loop of a Carvin Legacy 3, and this is the most killer fucking sound I've ever heard. Glenn, big questions. What settings do you think Cannibal use on their MP1 for the bleeding?
Morgan, dude, I gotta say, I'm impressed with your idea there. I've never really thought about ever putting a plugin into an effects loop, but I guess that makes total sense. Of course, you're talking about the Nimbrini MP1 sim video I did there a couple weeks ago, and that's a super, super cool plugin. But I mean, theoretically, yeah, you could drop it into your amp's effects loop and just go out of the power amp like that into a cab and mic that up, and that'd probably be pretty fucking amazing. And when you think about it, it really does make a lot of sense. It's no different than putting, like, say, a Tonex pedal in an effects loop or an Axe effects or anything like that. They're just fucking computers, so yeah, why not? Clever idea though, man. I really gotta thank you for suggesting that. All you guys looking to do something a little bit different? Yeah, grab the 81 sim and check it out for yourself. And if you don't want to take my word for it, grab the demo. It won't cost you any money.
If Celestion brings back the older vintage 30 speakers, would they call them vintage 30s and the newer ones modern vintage 30s?
Man, that would be worse than the 80s when Coke changed to the new Coke and they put out classic Coke and we're like, what the fuck? Can't we just have a regular Coke?
Glenn, you're probably too busy to respond to this, but what do you think of the Marshall Mode 4? Everyone shits on this amp and I seem to find great tone in it myself. Not sure if you've ever come across one, but it'd be great to find some insight from a fellow gear whore. From Alberta with love, brother, take care of that little lady.
Hi, Scott. Yes, I am responding. Thank you very much for writing, and I really appreciate that. Now, I've never actually played a Mode 4, so just take this with a grain of salt. I've heard some bad things about it too, but usually that's because those kind of amps are paired up with terrible fucking speakers. I mean, the Valvekin got shit on like crazy too. Turns out, if you take one of those combos and hook it up to a good cab, it sounds really fucking good. So that'd be my suggestion with a Mode 4. If you get your hands on one, try it out through a decent cab. I've only ever had one amp in this situation where hooking up better speakers really didn't make that much of a difference, and that was one of those old crate combo amps. That just sounded like a disaster no matter which way you hooked it up. But that's the exception, not the rule. Best of luck, man.
Hey Glenn, third worlder here. Surviving on borrowed Pod Go and a Boss GT10. No matter what I do, the processors sound thin, fizzy, and notes don't sustain long enough. What can I do? Any budget options?
Dude, you're having troubles getting something decent out of the Pod Go? If that's the case, the things are thin and fizzy, I'd say start with all your settings at noon and just enough gain to get some decent power chords, and then start cycling through your impulse responses. If you want a good impulse response to start with, I'll see if I can make one available in the description here. Hopefully that can help out. That's a couple of my cabs. That's generally gonna be all you're gonna need is a Pod Go and a decent IR. That's it. And if that's still not getting you the results, I don't know what the hell your problem is. Yeah, basically back your gain off. And just start by adding a little bit. Now, don't crank it up to 1,000,000. Get it to sound good with a little bit of gain, and then work on bringing it in bit by bit by bit. But again, start with a good impulse response, and don't worry about the other thing as well. Just stick with the Pod Go. That is a fucking phenomenal piece of gear. I'm actually kind of shocked you can't get something good out of it.
So you set the treble knob on a Mark V 25 to barely past noon, and when it particularly produced a weak, shitty tone instead of Master of Puppets, you concluded that the Mark II C+, an amp you've never played, therefore sucks. Glenn, did you recently start playing bass?
Oh, Tom, really? Do you honestly think I didn't try every single possible setting combination on that amp before I made that video? Did you ever stop to think that maybe in my particular situation with where I had the microphone in relationship to the cab, it didn't sound that good with the treble knob cranked up? Did not even cross your mind at all? To quote here, you concluded that the Mark II C Plus, an amp which you've never played, therefore sucks. Where the fuck did I say that amp sucked? As I recall, I only called it the Power Glove. When I plugged into it, it struck me like a Power Glove. Mainly hype and not much substance. On its own, it's a bit of a disappointment, but if you put a parametric EQ in a loop, then it becomes awesome. I spoke those terms in plain fucking English. Obviously, that was a little bit too complex to comprehend. It's obvious you're probably either a fan of the Mark V or you own one, something like that. You know, if you can get some great results out of it, more power to you. Like I said, if you really want to go down the whole Hetfield tone rabbit hole, don't watch my show. Fucking go watch Lamb Chopper. He's really fucking great at that stuff. I'm more good at like just general shit when it comes to recording, especially working with different mics and speakers and all that kind of shit. I don't know the exact minutia of James's setup. It's been well documented by people who can do it way better than I ever could. So go watch him.
Well, I don't know. There's so many cork sniffers out there that repeat sentences they're here online but really lack the skills. I was a front of house sound engineer for a band, and the other engineer loved the tone I mixed, and he said, wow, how did you get that? Blah, blah, blah. Can I look? And then he looked at the settings and said, oh, wow, I would never do that. People read settings like that. All are perfect. If a bass tone basically only has mids, of course I cut a lot of mids because I want more sub bass high end because cutting is always better than boosted. There are simply super stupid people out there that love their opinions so much they get a stiffy from hearing themselves talk. So people always say that they want the best for your tone, but some people cannot deliver that. If you're not happy with your tone and it does not get better, change the engineer, change the amp, change the riff, the speaker, the band, the guitar, stop making music and make burgers. I don't know.
Yeah, this kind of echoes the previous comment there with, oh, you got to match the exact settings. It's like, that's the thing. You can use the same settings, but it's not always going to match your exact situation. In my case, it was probably the way the mic was on the speaker and the relationship with the dust cap, that kind of thing. What the knobs are reading don't necessarily mean everything, especially in a case of amps, because there can be variations in resistors and capacitors and that thing. There are different tolerances there where one EQ setting might be a little bit different than another. But I think the dude here has a really good point, is that if you're unhappy with the tone and it does not get better, change the engineer. And that's what I say to bands, you know, it's like, hey, if it's not working out, that's fine. You can go somewhere else. It's no skin off my teeth, but obviously you came in here because you heard something you liked. And hopefully, I can get good results for you too. But I think that's great advice, though. If you're not happy with what you're getting in the studio, you can always change studios. There's plenty of competition out there.
I know this is essentially a guitar pedal, but what if you use it for a bass? Is it able to catch the frequencies that low?
You're talking about the Puppet Master EQ. Kind of got it over here. It's still plugging into my amp. Yes, it's a parametric EQ, which means you can shift frequencies up and down the spectrum. So yes, you can tune it for bass. Should be absolutely no problem. You want to be careful how much bass or how much mid-range you're scooping out of that bass guitar, though. It's a very powerful EQ. Proceed with caution.
Hey Glenn, is there a difference between recording on a cab with a metal grill versus a cab with a mesh or grill cloth? I'd love to hear your opinions on this. Keep up the great work and advice.
Interesting question, Jeff. I actually had that same question years ago. And I have a Mesa cab and I have an angle cab, both with different grills. My Happy cab has a metal grill as well. And most of my other ones are all just cloth grills. And believe me, I got about 12 different cabs in here. Is there a difference? Maybe. Is there anything distinctive? Probably not. There might be a little bit of difference in sound, but then again, it's like there's bigger differences, as far as I know anyway. In my experience, there's far differences from speaker to speaker to speaker in the same cabinet than there is between cloth and metal grills. You would think a metal grill would really interfere with things or change the sound, but not really that much. The only way a metal grill is going to give you any kind of a difference if it's not, locked down correctly and starts humming and buzzing when you start chugging away. In that case, you might want to get out a screwdriver and start tightening things down just a little bit more, because that's going to introduce a little bit of buzz into your sound, and you definitely don't want that.
I'm happy that I'm always buying the wrong gear. Buy high, sell low. My Code 50 is a great example of why you shouldn't smoke massive amounts of weed before stepping into a guitar center. Do I like the sounds and tones? Let's just start by saying that there is no line out on this effing thing. The best part about this amp is that it is the perfect height to set my coffee on while sitting in my chair and practicing my guitar through a metal zone pedal through my PA. I'm glad I found your channel after buying this piece of shit, as it makes my coffee taste better as I decide which nephew is going to get stuck with this piece of shit amp. I bid you good day. I hope your wife gets well soon. Peace.
Thanks for writing in, James. I really appreciate that. I would definitely agree with James here. Don't get stoned out of your brain and then go shopping for guitar gear, because you're never going to make an objective decision like that. That's just a bad fucking idea. Hell, in my opinion, don't spend your money on weed at all. Save it and buy more gear. It's going to be much more fun in the long run, and you'll get a better experience out of the whole situation, because at least you'll have something to show for your money. All right, that's it for this episode, guys. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. I'm not sure what my subscriber numbers are at like right now. I know a whole bunch of people joined the channel. I really do appreciate that. But if you haven't hit the button, please do. It would be a giant help. I'm not able to shoot as many videos as I would like to. I'm far from being back up to a normal shooting schedule. And I am going to have a bit of a life update coming up real soon on the show. I can give you guys a little bit of the story of what's going on with my wife and how that's affecting my production and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be an interesting little story, but for everybody who has been watching the show over the last couple of months, thank you so very much. Everybody online who shared my videos, everyone who gave shout outs, all the guys in Reddit's Guitar Circle Jerk, you guys are fucking awesome. And I'm so grateful to every single one of you, and especially you right there watching right now, especially right to the end of the show here. I'm ever so grateful for you. I really am, truly. And everybody who wrote in, thank you so very much as well. Even if you don't like my answer, and even if I gave you a smart ass comment, I mean, like, don't run away. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Stick around. We're gonna be doing a lot of cool stuff over the next few months, just not as much as I would like to at the moment. And one more thing before I go. If there's somebody in your life you care a great deal about, give them a hug today. Take care.